Mhm.
Okay. You want to go ahead?
Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
All right, Lovepreet, it was great to meet you in the fit interview. Let's go ahead and start with the case interview.
Mhm.
So this case is from the Dowling Chemical Company. The Dowling Chemical Company, headquartered in Michigan, is one of the largest global chemical companies in the world that specializes in plastics with $20 billion in sales. And they are considering a merger with an industry rival, ChemX, headquarters in Louisiana, who also specializes in plastic with $10 billion in sales. The management team at Dowling has retained your firm to provide a recommendation on whether or not to proceed with the merger and assess the risks and rewards of the recommended path forward.
Okay. Okay, so I would just like to confirm these details. So we have Dahlin Chemicals, and they are in Michigan. They're one of the largest chemical sort of manufacturers in the world. Their specialty is plastics, and they've made 20 billion in sales in the previous year. And they're considering a merger with a company called ChemX, which is in Louisiana, and they have the same specialty in plastics. And their yearly revenue in the previous year was 10 billion in sales. And what we want to determine now is if our current client should move forward with the merger and proceed with that. And we also want to consider what the risks and rewards are with this decision.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Is there any other metric of success that we're aiming for here?
Nope, just whether or not you recommend proceeding with the merger.
Okay. Okay. Could we know anything else about the sort of in terms of the locations or the number of maybe the manufacturing plants that the companies have or anything along those lines?
Yes, so they both operate mainly in the US and they
Yeah.
sell to the same set of customers, like such as packaging companies. So they sell their plastics to packaging companies.
Okay. In terms of is there any information about where they get their raw materials from? Are they similar? Are they produced in the US?
Um, nope, it just looks like they sell these customers. They operate in the US, but it doesn't say anything about where they source their materials.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to move forward with developing an approach for our client, really addressing the question of if our client should move forward with acquiring this company and moving forward with the merger.
Great.
Yeah. Wait, just one second. Do you have any more information about the kind of plastics they make? So what is it that they make?
Yes, so the plastic is each company's only product, and plastic is a commodity product with no differentiation. So it's just selling plastic.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm ready to go through a sort of approach for our client. So to consider whether we should move forward with the merger or not, I've really broken it down into two categories. So really considering the revenue and sort of cost that our client stands to gain from the merger, and really and the second part is the external factors considering the market and what the client stands to gain in that respect of if they should move forward with the merger. So considering the revenue and cost, I've broken that down further to revenue, cost, and the company's internal expertise. And the market, I've broken it down into market trends and competitors. Now, looking at the revenue under the revenue and cost, we want to take a look at what our client stands to gain. So in terms of sales, what will they gain in terms of equipment during the merger? What do they gain in terms of those sort of assets? Now, in terms of the cost, we want to consider the merger cost and any sort of associated risk with that. So when the merger does happen, what kind of liabilities is our client also taking on that might harm them? And is there any way of getting out of those sort of tricky situations there? And then in terms of company expertise, I want to consider how this is going to impact staffing. So through the process of merger, will we have staff that we need to cut and so forth? How does it impact human resources and company morale? And we also want to consider the supply chain and its operations. So how do both of the companies merge together and now adopt the principles of our clients' operations? And under the market, again, I want to consider market trends. So currently is their growth in the plastics sort of industry that our client is in need of expanding and taking on, merging with this client, and specifically, what's the need for our client to take on, merge with this company? Is there something they're offering that we really want to understand and they stand to gain from? And then we also want to consider competitors. So what are competitors doing? Are they also growing and excelling at this point and growing to the extent that we are with ChemX if we decide to move forward with them? And unless you have a place you think we should start with this case, I would like to first take a look at the revenue. So what kind of sales our client stands to gain and the sort of assets our client could gain.
Great. So we'll get to the revenues and the revenues a little later. But first, I have a question for you. Well, I'll provide an exhibit as well. But Dowling has determined the merger will cost the company $6 billion in upfront costs if they proceed. So that includes legal, banking fees, severance, and site closures. However, they expect to generate $50 million in annual cost synergies and believe they'll be able to raise prices on its combined products by 5%. So will this merger create value? And let me pull up the relevant exhibit for you. A second.
Okay.
It's coming up.
Yep. So just confirming, so we believe that there will be $6 billion in upfront costs, which include our legal cost and severance. And then we also believe there's $50 billion in terms of cost as a result of the synergy. So a total of $56 billion in cost. And we believe that we can increase the prices of our plastics that we're selling by 5%.
Yeah, so just to make sure, it'll cost the company $4 billion and will generate $50 million in annual cost synergies.
So it's costing $4 billion in upfront cost, and the company is going to gain $50 billion?
It's expected to generate $50 million in annual cost synergies. And they'll be able to raise their prices on its combined products by 5%.
Okay, so just to confirm, so the 50 billion cost synergies, it's a cost, right? It's not expected sales or anything.
Well, it's $50 million in annual cost synergies. 50 million in annual cost synergies. Yeah.
Okay. So
annual cost synergies.
Yeah, so 4.5 billion. Okay. Dowling and ChemX direct peer evaluation and merger table. So the company, Peer 1, this is their EBITDA. So this is their EBITDA and their EBITDA margins. So we have 10x, and so what we notice here is that peer 3 has the highest EV and sort of EBITDA value, and then their EBITDA margins at 30%, and then peer 2 has 9x, the lowest, so 9x and 15 billion, 15% in EBITDA margins. By peer, are we referring to other companies here, or these are their internal plants?
It looks like these are peer valuation multiples to see how much value will be created from the synergies and higher revenue. So these peers are different company comparisons. So these are
Okay.
separate. Each peer is a different company.
Okay, so from here, would we want to compare Dowling and Camp X to these peers, or would we? I'm not exactly sure how to proceed here right now. 1 second. So we can see here that peer 3's earnings are 15x, but relevant to, so their earnings are 15 times the earnings of Dowling and Camp X. Is that what we're inferring here?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so the margin for each it's fair to assume that there's similar valuation and margin structure, but the what was your question, Lovepreet?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused what to infer from this table. So we know that the company itself is expecting to spend 4 billion in upfront cost, and we know that there's 15 million in cost of synergies. So in total, we can say the cost is 4.5 billion. And you had also shared with me that we can raise the prices of the plastics by 5%, right? So moving with that information in mind, I'm not sure what to make of this table.
Sure. So first let's look at the cost savings. EBITDA would be the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation. With that, we'll first need to calculate the cost savings. So we'll have the $50 million that we'll expect from annual cost synergies, right? So with the merger, $50 million would be saved, as well, because we know that the combining all the values would produce a average EV/EBITDA of 11x. So go ahead and calculate the average EV/EBITDA using the margins.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So the average margin that we can expect for EBITDA for our company is 22%.
Yes.
Is 22%. So knowing that this is sort of the earnings we can expect before we account for interest and taxes and amortization as well. From this, we know that there's a considerable amount of earnings that we would increase, and it's not necessarily so far a bad thing that we would want, or the merger wouldn't be a sort of a, it doesn't run the risk of being a bad decision. So knowing this, and we know that we have a savings of 50 million with synergies, and we know the percentage is 22%. Could we move forward with understanding the
Well, remember our question. So our question for this is to determine whether this merger will create value. And
yeah.
so we have from the question, we have our current sales for the Dowling and as well the sales for
Mhm.
the merger target. From that, can you calculate the value of the new revenues as well as the cost savings? So we have the original revenues from the question
Mhm.
and determining what would be the evaluation the after all else.
Yeah.
And so I stand corrected. So the peer 1, 2, 3, there are basically portions of the company. So
Okay.
yeah, so you can find the averages for both EV and EB ITDA.
So we know the average EBITDA margin is 22%. So we can
Hmm.
say the average EBITDA otherwise
Hmm.
is around 10.2 x. That's the average.
Yeah, about 11.
About 11. Okay. 11x, then we have the margin at 22%.
Mhm.
And then we're calculating the new revenue. The new revenue would be about 35 billion, because with the 20 billion plus the 10 billion and prices increasing by 5%, that
Mhm. So could you repeat that again? So with the 5% increase in sales,
Mhm.
with our current sales, how much is our um how much is our new EBITDA?
Oh, okay.
And remember, we're trying to determine if this merger will create value. So
Yeah, I'm just a little confused right now. So
yeah,
basically,
absolutely.
we see the valuation and margin tables. These are aspects of the company. So maybe different plants from manufacturing and sort of the EBITDA that comes from each one. So the earnings we gain from each plant, and then we have the margins. So now using the values provided, we calculated the beta, average beta, which we say is 11, and the average margin, which we say is 22%. So, and the current sales are 30 billion, if they were to merge, so ChemX and Dowling. So from that, maybe considering the margin of 22% on average, we can determine the.
Well, remember, we have our current sales 30 billion, but we're having a 5% increase in the prices, so increase in sales. So remember to include that as well.
Okay.
Great. So how's your approach going, Lovepreet?
Sorry about that. So before I was trying to calculate the increase in sales. So the current 30 billion multiplied by a 5% increase in that value. So given that value, I would take that value and then multiply that by the 22% in average EBITDA to get the EBITDA value. Is that the correct approach?
Yep, that's great.
I'm just having a problem with my math.
Yeah, no problem. So now you have the new EBITDA margin of 1.5 billion times 22%.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh yeah, so what is your new margin?
I don't have a new margin as of right now.
Oh, just go ahead.
Okay.
Great, so where are you along the math, Lovepreet?
I'm still calculating the 5% increase to get the new sales value. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I got 150 million.
So 5% of 30 billion, be 1.5 billion. So
Yeah,
1.5
1.5.
billion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So taking that increase in sales, calculate your new IBI EBITDA with we have your average, right, from the exhibit.
Is it 33 billion? So 1.5 million, sorry, billion, a million multiplied by the 22% of EBITDA.
So 1.5 billion times 20%.
Yeah. The billion, sorry, 8 zeros. So I need to add 2 more zeros here. So yeah, so oh sorry, 3.3 billion.
Well, just remember, Lovepreet, we're taking 22% of 1.5 billion. So about a quarter of 1.5 billion is our new margin. So it can't be 3.3 billion because that's twice. So
Yeah.
what's 22% of 1.5 billion?
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
Is it 2.3? No. Why am I struggling so much here?
Wait, so just to help you out, Lovepreet. So we
Mhm.
have 1.5 billion, right? Times 22%.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's around 1.5 times 25%, right? So that's one
Mhm.
quarter of 1.5 billion.
You're right.
So what's 15 divided by 4 just to start us out?
Yeah. So okay. So basically we can say it's 0.5 billion.
Oh, that would be 33%, right? 1.5 divided by 3. That would be zero point 0.5, but divided by
Yeah.
times,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Wait, so just take a step out. What number did you have in the beginning? It was 3.3 billion, right?
Yeah.
That was 3.3 billion. Okay. So
Or
one.
yeah. So I don't know. I added the added extra zero here.
Yeah.
One,
So 3.3 billion. What would it be instead?
3.3 million. It's
Uh, 330 million, right? You had 3.3 billion, but take away a zero is
330.
330.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
330 million. That's our new margin.
Oh, thank you. I had it, but I messed up
Yeah,
the
you
zeros.
had it. Yeah, you just had a zero added.
So that's our new margin.
Yes.
Margin in this is our new margin in dollars.
Yes, $330 million is our new margin.
Okay. So now that we know our costs and our new margin, um, I'm trying to figure out if this is a good decision to move forward with this. Our new revenue we discussed was 30 billion. Is that what we just determined as well?
Yes, yes, yes. However, right now we have the margin, so we still have our EV divided by EV ITDA.
Yeah.
So we have an average of 11, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, great. 11x.
Hmm. Do we need to calculate that again, or that isn't
No, no,
that
that's the average you can use. That's the average you can use.
I can use that
Yeah.
average? Okay, so let's calculate that to be a new. So we would do 330 million divided by 11x.
Oh, multiply by 11.
So our new earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation and amortization is 3,630 million.
So you have 330 million from the new margin, right? And you're multiplying that by 11.
Yeah.
Okay. Try that calculation again. 330, because remember, 330 million times 11 is kind of like 330 times 10. And so it would be around 3.3, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So like
Oh,
yeah, you see what I
yes.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. So where are you along that line? So the 330 million times the average EV over EBITDA, right?
Yeah, so I'm just trying multiply 330 by 11.
Yep.
So that's really what I'm trying to do right now. I don't know why I'm scattered.
Yeah, take a breath. You got this. Wait, so where are you along the lines?
So when I
Um,
do, yeah, so when I do 330 multiplied by 11, I get 3,630.
mhm,
I don't know why I'm messing that up,
okay.
but that's what I get as the value, and that's why I'm like, oh, a beta. So 330 million multiplied by 11.
Hmm. Wait, so that's the 330 million times 11, right? So first we can do 330 times 10, right? So that's 3.3 billion, right? And then we have it's 11, oh, it's 11, so it's 10 plus 1. So we add 3.3 billion plus the same 330 million, right?
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
so okay, so you're saying just okay. So I'm
Just to
messing
help
up.
you out, yeah, just to help with the calculation, right?
Yeah, so I'm messing up because I'm not including the zeros from the million.
Yeah, yeah. So we have 330 million
Mhm.
times 10 plus 330 times 1 to get 330 times 11, right?
Okay, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just gonna do the calculation real quick.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Um, so what did you get as the answer?
Go ahead. What did you get?
I'm getting 66 6600 million.
Okay, 660. Okay. Well, here, let me stop sharing. I just to be on the same page with you really quick. Um, so our goal is to do 330 times 11, right?
Yeah.
So we can do 330
Hmm.
times 10 plus 1, right?
Hmm.
So that's 330 plus 330 times 10. Oops. That'd be 3,300 plus 3,300, right? Because it's 330 times 10 and then
Yeah.
330 times 1. So
Yeah.
then adding these together, we get 3,630, right?
Yeah.
Million,
Hmm.
billion. And so that equals 3.6 billion. You see?
Hmm.
Great. So yeah,
Okay.
the answer is 3.6 billion. Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I messing up with the zeros there? Because okay, because the zero from these two digits, so in total the digits are there's 8 digits. Okay.
Yeah. So there we go. The number we're getting is 3.6 billion, right? Okay. So that's the value of new revenue, right? So what can we do? What can we also include about the value of cost savings?
So,
Because
mhm,
remember, we have generate $50 million in annual cost synergies from
mhm.
from this merger, right?
Yeah, so the cost synergies we would like to subtract from this value, or
Well, the cost savings and new revenue both contribute towards increasing firm value, right?
yeah, so the 50 million in cost synergies were savings that we're getting.
But we also have to multiply it by that same 11, remember? The 11x.
Okay, and we're multiplying it because that's the margin of earnings that we're getting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now we do 50 million also times 11, right?
Yeah, okay. Is that 550 million?
Yep. Great. So the value of the cost savings, we have both the value of the cost savings and the value of the new revenue, right?
Mhm.
So how much does our firm value increase? Because
So
we
that
have both cost savings and new revenue.
Yeah, so that would be our new revenue would be the 36 million, and our cost savings are the 50 million. Adding that together, we would get
Wait, so remember, what numbers do you have right now? We have what do you have for the new revenue that we calculated?
3.6 billion.
Million? Yeah, and that's great. So what about the cost savings as well?
The 50 million, right? Oh, sorry, 550 million.
Yes, yes, 550 million. Great. So what do you get when you add those together?
Yeah, I'm just adding them together right now. Currently, I'm not able to add them. Like, Stephen, do you have a tip of, so I know that I can break the 3.6 billion down to 10 to the power of 8 because that's how many circle zeros are in there. And then 550 million is 10 to the power of 6. So then, like, do you have a way of how should
Yeah,
I
yeah,
add?
yeah,
Mhm,
sure. Let me help you out.
mhm.
So, oh gosh, how do we clear all drawings? So we have 3.6 billion, right? 3.6 billion, and we have 550 million. And
Mhm.
so 3.6 billion also let's do this instead. 5.5 million equals 0.55 billion, right?
Oh,
And then we have 3.6 billion.
mhm,
So we add them together. What do we get then?
mhm. Did we get 4.15 billion?
Yes, yes, 4.15 billion. That is our increase in firm value.
Mhm. Oh, that's very helpful. Okay, let me.
Great. So will this merger create value, um, given the total cost of the merger, right?
Yuki. So given that the our total cost synergies and our revenue, we are going to be gaining 4.15 billion, and the cost I believe that you had mentioned earlier is 4 billion. We would only be increasing our sort of benefit by 0.15 billion in this regard. So we have small um gain, but there is value to gain, which is what we see
Great.
so far. So we ready to move forward to a recommendation or no?
Great. So yeah, we are this merger would create value. So question two, really quickly, the company's attempting to identify major buckets of potential synergies, and has asked for your help in laying out potential areas to focus on in realizing synergies from this combination. How should a company think of this? So synergies.
So how synergies? Okay, so we're basically
Synergies, yeah.
brainstorming the type of synergies the company can have.
What kind of synergies can you come up with?
Okay, can I just have a moment to create an approach and some brainstorm some ideas?
Yeah, sure. Take some time.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah,
Great.
so I've thought of some synergies. So the synergies can be considered in the internal space of the company's operations itself and the external space of the market. So there's internal synergies can include their supply chain, their equipment, and their staff, which is their contain the expertise of their businesses. And the external can be the suppliers that and the vendors they work with, and the customers that they serve, and along with the competitors, and creating a stronger market position. Does that make sense?
Great. Yeah,
Mhm.
great. Absolutely. So internal and external.
Mhm.
Um, Great. Do you have any ideas about so which of those in regards to revenues realizing synergies, what kind of do you have any way of so you have internal and external synergies, but within the
Mhm.
company, within the internal
Mhm.
within the internal synergies, what would you say those are split between?
The internal synergies split between sort of the revenue and cost that the company
Yes.
incurs.
Yes. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, moving forward, the Dowling management team is comfortable with the financial analysis for the merger, but is concerned about risks. What risks should Dowling be considering that may pose challenges to the merger?
Yeah, could I just make a note of some of the risks that they would possibly incur?
Sure, yeah, just come up with a couple of risks. Yeah. Um,
Okay, so some of the risks that they should keep in mind as a part of this integration process of this merger is one is of process compatibility. So, what kind of processes in terms of the operations do both plants follow currently? Staff morale is another thing. Like when there is an acquisition going on, how is the staff reacting to that, and what can we do to ensure that the response is positive? Another key thing is company culture. So people from our current company going and working with the other company, how's that going to work in terms of actually getting the work done? And then also vendor relationships. So what's our company's current relationships with the vendors of the previous company and like the people who supply them the raw materials?
great, absolutely. So yeah, the company CEO of Dowling enters the room. What would your recommendation be for our client?
Yeah. Could I just have a moment to put down my final thoughts?
Sure.
Okay. I'm ready to proceed to the recommendation.
Great. What would your recommendation be?
Yeah. So thank you for allowing us to take a look at this problem more closely. So what we'd recommend is that for now you hold off on the merger until we complete more due diligence. The reason for this is that currently the company does gain value if they do this merger. So the cost is 4 billion, and the value we would create is in total is 4.15 billion. However, the increases the what we stand to, oh, sorry, scrap that. Go ahead and move on with the merger because you do stand to gain 0.15 billion in terms of value. And considering the cost, this is a significant increase for the company and a positive step forward. A risk here is considering company culture to ensure that this merger moves on positively and that the companies merge into one, which is the ultimate goal, and also considering staff morale during this process. And also, we would like to, in moving forward, given more time, we would like to do more due diligence before this merger takes place to ensure that, yes, we do stand to gain that 0.15 billion, but it moves forward into a larger positive trajectory in the future. Thank you for your time.
Great. All right, Lovepreet, there we go.
My math, like seriously, is better.
That's why we practice. That's why you practice.
Yeah.
Great job finishing it. Yeah, finished all the way through. Yeah. Cool. How did you feel?
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Yeah, like at first I was like, oh, okay, merger. Like I'm interested in mergers, but I'm like, okay,
M&A. Yeah.
but I think the structure part was still okay. Where I really struggled was when you showed me that exhibit and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this, right?
Yeah.
But now, and like my page got really, like, if you can see, it's like messy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't be this messy. But
I'll be honest too, really quick. I had to really quickly Google what EBIT. I didn't know what it was myself, so I had to quickly
in my
Google it.
finance class, I remember calculating this, but it's not something that like comes to mind, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's earnings, so it's companies' profitability that investors look at, but still, like the way it's calculated here, like okay, multiply. Like it doesn't make sense to me, like multiply the sales by this value because we're trying to consider what the sales would be before we consider taxes and so forth. And I guess that the total sales value considers all that. Maybe that's why. But I had a hard time being like, what am I supposed to do with this information? But I'll definitely watch this video again and keep that in mind. The brainstorming I think was good though, right? Like
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, you definitely have like a strong idea of what like M&As do, like your vendors and culture fits and morale and all this stuff. So
yeah,
it's good you had a fundamental understanding that M&As are difficult for like in operational sense.
yeah,
The math was tough. But definitely some practice. Definitely I think you were definitely getting in your head about the math. Like
yeah.
I think you definitely know that, like,
Yeah.
1 point, yeah, divide by 4.
Exactly.
But
But I
yeah,
think it's like I'm so used to, like, I convince myself that I'm not good at doing
yeah,
math on
you're
paper.
fine. You're fine at
Yeah,
math.
but
Yeah,
like exactly right. But otherwise, I'm so used to doing math like on Excel or like with calculator
yeah,
that like, oh, I have to do this by hand. Like, oh no, But
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
shouldn't get my head so much, right? Otherwise, obviously, like these are small, like this is elementary math. It's not
yeah.
like complicated math. Like if I have to do some
But on
calculation.
the but on the spot as well, definitely
Yeah.
is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Um,
would definitely need to practice more. Like I've been like yesterday, I spent some time practicing the math just to get
yeah,
comfortable. Like if I think I even do it for like a week, I'll be in a different position with the math.
absolutely. Yeah. So here,
Hmm.
let me show you what it is. So do you see my screen? So
I can see it
okay,
now. Yeah.
so yeah, there we go. So the Allen Chemical Company, yeah, recommended merger. Some of the stuff, so concept test, synergies, valuation. So definitely, I just did an M&A case with my case coach.
Hmm.
And so like we really dove into it, like he like tore it apart and everything. But the structure, you did revenue, cost, and market.
Hmm.
With M&A, like the number one thing with M&A is synergies. Like that's
Synergy.
that's like
Mhm.
the really important to have
Yeah.
in your structure. And so yeah, the synergies is huge as well. Learning about company A, company B. But so your structure was a little bit. I think it was more for like a profitability case.
Yeah.
And so definitely looking at a M&A case, I think that definitely structure, analyzing the.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna quickly take a look at regardless. And then going ahead with the math. Yeah, so definitely needed system. And yeah, so basically your structure is pretty much for a profitability case and not so much for an M&A case. Because
Mhm.
synergies and like analyzing each company would be really, really important.
Yeah.
You asked some good questions about the products. That's good. as well as the you know, and then but another thing about M&As is who would run the company, like all sorts of
Mhm.
management stuff. So we had talked later on about, or I'll go through this one by one. So yeah, there we go. I don't think this was very market share was not very relevant, but so that's fine. Um,
Mhm. So you were
so
saying the market structure and the market structure, size, growth, profitability, pricing power, competition, highlight the information needed to assess them individually. So revenue drivers was a key thing.
yeah, so
Um,
assess each company individually. Basically just right up here. So, what is the company industry of before and after the merger, each industry, and then understanding the synergies. Like those are the big ones. Synergies, assess them individually, and discuss the plastic market structure. So you had market, so that was good. That was a good start. But let me just really quickly pull up like what they say in the about M&A cases.
mhm.
You just quickly. Oh, M&A is page 24 to 28. All right, really quick. So yeah, just briefly about yeah, so merger and acquisition cases. So
Yeah.
definitely here is like looking at the company individually, are there
Mhm.
synergies and is there price? And so look at another one, M&A joint venture. Okay, this is kind of this is entering okay, this wait. Anyways, yeah, so the looking at the company and looking at the synergies. So those were definitely the big points
Yeah.
that yeah,
I've
then
not,
you
I haven't done M&A case at all, so like this
yeah,
we definitely need to take a look at.
yeah. But that's kind of what I'm talking about with just like what I did with my with my case coach. Once you've
Yeah.
done one M&A case, you've done them all. It's all
Yeah.
synergies, it's all looking at the companies, it's all just seeing like whether the synergies match, would make up for the cost. So
Mhm. Mhm.
so beyond that, the math, like seeing this exhibit definitely is a little bit. I mean, I personally didn't know
Mhm.
what these terms meant, and so I had to Google them really quick and look up
Mhm.
this. However, just as a whole, this is EV over EBITDA, right? And so this is a margin that's a percent.
Mhm.
So after calculating the margin, you have EBITDA, or you at least have the yeah you have the yeah, you're trying to calculate for EV, right? Is that what we're trying to do? I think we're trying to do that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we have yeah.
Mhm.
So with EV being over EBITDA and then doing that multiplication, you want to cancel out this numerator divided by this denominator to get EV, right?
Mhm.
So just like some practice on multiplying. And yeah, basically just the math. The math was just a little definitely like a point that you could work on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so just doing the multiplication. I think the fundamental comps, yeah. I mean, working by yourself, like figuring this out. I personally did not know what these terms meant, so I'm glad you know them. I just for
Yeah.
whatever reason,
They're much easier to work with in Excel instead of here.
yeah, I bet. So yeah, that's just something that
Mhm.
you have to work through. And yeah, and then yeah, similar valuation and market structure. You got the averages. The goal is to provide context on peer valuation multiples. So yeah, so basically just took an average of both and then performed some. And then we had the brainstorm of realizing synergies. You had said something about materials and marketing costs. You had talked about potential markets. We could talk about cross-selling opportunities, but yeah, basically just a couple other ideas. Hey, Calvin, did you say something about this, like hiring a bunch of people?
No, I did not. Like, see, this brainstorm I didn't do a good job at because I broke it down
Oh,
differently.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Internally and
broke it down
externally.
internal, external, right? But I should have
That's
broken it
right.
down to cost synergies and revenue
Yeah.
synergies, right? So
Yeah.
that's a
So
different way to think about it, like with mergers. Yeah.
yeah, so definitely synergies would be measured in profitability, right? And within profitability is cost. I had this exact same problem when I was doing I can just pull up what I my last notes. When I did my M&A case on Monday with my
Hmm.
case coach.
Yeah.
Um what I did was I'm actually just I actually do want to pull this up, what I did.
Hmm.
Um I did okay, I hope I did quantitative and qualitative. So I did like, oh, what numbers do we? But he was just like, with it, like, like, okay, you don't really need the qualitative part, just quantitatively, are there synergies? And the
Yeah.
synergies are profit, and when the profit is revenue cost. And he literally said to me, like just make it, it's just obvious. You know, you feel like it feels like you're just using some kind of plan template, but it's just obvious. Not obvious and like it's easy, but like
Yeah.
if you're thinking profitability, you're thinking revenue and costs. You know, if you're thinking synergies, that's measured in quantitatively, you're thinking about revenue and costs. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that I also did like I did quantitative qualitative, which is also like you like internal external like
Yeah.
just remember to
Mhm.
answer the question
Mhm.
of just like realizing synergies. And then the last one, you had a good number. You have culture, whether or not culture would hurt. You had some scale, but just a little bit more.
Regulatory, yeah.
Yeah, just understanding like what M&A is, right? And just having these having knowing, and then yeah, and then they didn't include a whatever page, but yeah, basically you included it. But yeah, overall, I guess like within like the last two times we worked together, definitely like what's been like what I've noticed is that when you like with the math or like with the whatever kind of analysis you're doing, you just like put your head down and grind, you know what I mean? And then like come up and whether it's a right answer or wrong answer, but sometimes it's wrong. Definitely that's something that they encourage in all the practices, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's
Yeah, like
better to do it slow and talk it
yeah.
through and all that stuff rather than like put your head down and get it wrong, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely
so
like
yeah.
my case coach too. He was like, always before you start something, be like, okay, share the equation. Like, this is what I'm going to solve for, and this is the way I formatted it. And then say it out loud, like, these are the numbers I'm working with, and that's something I need to work on because in my mind, I quickly go to, oh my God, I have to figure this, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm like,
Like
oh my God.
structure it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
whole thing,
yeah.
structure. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's
yeah,
the whole thing. It's like
yeah.
focusing on structure and communicating that. So that's definitely
Mhm.
something I need to make sure I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely. Oh, let's just share my screen. So definitely the way you could have went about it was,
Mhm.
I asked you this question, so that I went over the framework, whatever. And so I asked you this question. So 4 billion upfront costs. Will this merger create value? And
Mhm.
so you heard upfront costs. We heard annual cost synergies and raise prices, so it's revenue. So you take a second and just say, okay, I want to solve for what the cost synergies are. I want to solve for the revenue increase, and from that, I want to compare against upfront cost. And then
Mhm.
you see what I mean? And
Mhm.
then once you go about that, then you start solving for each individual part.
Mhm.
So you said, I mean, definitely like taking like one second, okay, what is my approach here? What is my structure to approaching this problem?
Yeah.
And then you solve, all right, we have cost savings, and so let's solve for that. And we have new revenue, solve for that. And then we calculate that. Definitely using this. I didn't know what to do when I saw this exhibit in the first place. I'm like, wait. But yeah, it's just finding out the average of each, and then using those numbers to
Mhm.
calculate. So
Mhm.
yeah. So if you can see like, it's good, we're just practicing, right? But like you can see how like if had you like taken a second to like this is how I'm gonna approach it, that it would have come out to be yeah, it would have come out to be a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely be more collaborative and like even here, if I was like, okay, so this is the upfront cost, then so we should
Mhm.
calculate. And also, if it's a way of thinking, right? Like, oh, we're considering synergies, so let's calculate that. Let's calculate revenue
Mhm.
synergies, cost synergies, and then you go from there. Here too, I didn't know what to think of the make of this table.
Mhm. Yeah, what honestly was lucky, Lovepreet. I'm glad you knew what these were. I because if you had asked me what does EBITDA mean, I wouldn't know what to say because I actually didn't know. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you actually knew what that was already. So that's a plus. You actually do have the like MBA kind of knowledge about it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, overall just structuring your thoughts.
Mhm.
You're like you'll be fine with the math. You know what I mean? Like this is like, math is just, I'm not sure like it's basically structuring your thoughts and just like I mean, maybe it's more than that, but yeah, all the numbers were there. Just basically structured and just like yeah, I'm not sure what was going on with like converting billion million, but just practicing to just converting them all to one unit. So putting them
Yeah.
all into million or one to billion, and then
Mhm.
just like and also something I wrote is really reality check your answer, right? Because at some point we did 1.5 billion times 22%, and you were
Mhm.
getting like 3.3
Yeah,
billion.
yeah, yeah.
Well, like a
That's not
quarter of
possible.
1 point, yeah, it's not like that's just you know what I mean? Like let's double check that number for a second. Like so reality check your numbers.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down all those notes, and so I'll send
Yeah.
them over to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the fundamental understanding of M&A, it's good that you understand that like about all these operational stuff and everything. But yeah, definitely, I think the math is
Yeah.
like the point where you're
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
It's funny though. It's funny though. I felt when I was watching you how you must have felt when I was doing that market you remember that? Do you remember that book
Yeah.
that
Yeah. What
Spain
was that about? That's something else. I don't know what's
the
happening there.
the
Yeah.
bookstore in Spain? Yeah.
Yeah. I
Like
feel like in
yeah
that case, it's actually hard. You know what I mean? Like this,
yeah.
this isn't
No no
hard. It's
this
I'm struggling with math.
no
Mhm.
this was a medium case. This was a medium. This wasn't
Yeah.
entirely an easy one.
Yeah. But see,
But
like with mergers, the biggest thing, like you said, is synergies. Like that's gonna throw you off.
synergies.
You're not considering of like how they're gonna come together. You know what I mean?
Yeah
So that's definitely something I need to review and like what happens in an M&A, you know?
yeah
Um,
exactly.
to have more of an understanding of that. And then definitely the math, like I was really struggling. Like some of the numbers are not even big, you know? But I was
Hmm
just struggling with like the zeros and like that mind frame. But that's something I need to work.
hmm
I'm gonna work on that this week and hopefully by next week be more comfortable with the numbers. Like there's
Yeah
no reason
yeah.
why I make such a mess on my like why this is happening with me.
Yeah
There is no
yeah.
reason. This can't happen at an interview. It's like, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, definitely just structure your thoughts. I mean, having done a couple of these before, what I would have done here. Let me pull up a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Um, oh shoot. Um, 1 second. Okay, I got it now. I got it now. What I would have kind of looked at was, oh, okay, let me clear this. Um, so what I would have said, okay, we're trying to determine if this merger is a good idea. So let's solve for cost
Hmm.
savings, um, plus, um, plus
Hmm.
new revenue, and then minus cost of merger, right? Cost of merger, and then individually like solve for so
Yeah.
cost of state cost savings. Let's like find this out, and then new revenue, and then just find out. Like make a table. You know what I mean? Make a
Yeah.
table and just like write it out, and then
Hmm.
because that's what they did. Okay, let's stop sharing this. That's what they did in the actual case. So basically, like really structuring. Oh wait, screen shares.
Yeah.
Really structuring your thoughts. In the case math modules too. Um,
Hmm.
hold on. Let me just get out of here. In the case math modules too, what they'll do is, I mean, I looked at one of them. Basic foundations or whatever. Okay, it's not what I wanted to do. Basically, they'll show they want you to make tables. Just a basic
Hmm.
structure thought. Like for example, in my M&A case with my case coach a little while ago, my coach said I did a good job because it was something about um, oh, that's something that I'm doing over year 0 versus year 5. And so, for example here, for example, they did a question about 8 years ago, today, and 10 years. So they made a table about this problem, and as well, um, yeah, for example, another table, right? So basically making a table, what you could have done is you made a table of new revenues and made a table of cost savings and then subtracted both. So definitely really structured like literally like making
Hmm.
like a table
Hmm.
of your values just to really keep your thought structure. So checking
Yeah.
out the math fundamentals, I think it's a good start because I didn't consider I would have done what you did as well, which is just like all right, let's just sit down and just do it. But once I like had looked a little bit at the case math homework modules,
Yeah.
it was clear that like okay, like there, for example, year 0 and year 5, and my case coach made a specific note like, oh, that was a good idea to do a year
Hmm.
0, year 5 kind of analysis after this
Yeah.
merger. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So my plan is actually like today I'm gonna do some math, like basic math,
yeah, yeah,
and then tomorrow go into the think like a consultant
yeah.
case math. And I think case math, and then I'll probably go through all of them, but like case math, market sizing, structure for sure.
hmm
Um,
yeah. But
but
yeah,
yeah.
Lovepreet. So right now, so okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording now. Is that cool with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.